The year is 30 AD, and Jerusalem is not at peace. It only appears that way from a distance. Beneath the stone streets and sacred rituals, something volatile is building, something no army can fully contain. The city is swollen with pilgrims for Passover, a festival that does not simply celebrate the past, but remembers liberation from empire. And memory, in the wrong moment, can become a weapon. Rome knows this. Rome always knows. Soldiers stand watch at every gate, every corner, every gathering, not because rebellion has begun, but because it might. And in the logic of empire, possibility is enough. Somewhere inside this crowded city, a man enters not with an army, but with something far more dangerous, a claim. Within days, he will be condemned, rejected, and executed. But the question that echoes across history is not how it happened, it is why. Jerusalem at this time exists under a delicate illusion of stability. It is governed by Rome, but managed locally by religious authorities who walk a narrow line between obedience and influence. At the center of this balance stands the temple, not only as a sacred place, but as a political institution. Authority flows through it, order depends on it, and the men who oversee it understand something deeply unsettling. Their power does not belong entirely to them. It is permitted, conditional, fragile. One disruption, one uprising, one moment of chaos during Passover, and Rome will not hesitate to remind everyone who truly rules. This is the environment into which Jesus of Nazareth arrives, not as a soldier, not as a politician, but as something far more difficult to categorize: a voice. He does not move like a revolutionary. There are no weapons, no strategic alliances, no visible plan to seize power. And yet crowds gather wherever he goes, not because he promises to overthrow Rome, but because he speaks with a kind of authority that feels older than the empire itself. He speaks of a kingdom, but not one that can be mapped or conquered. And that ambiguity becomes the first crack in the system, because ambiguity is dangerous. It cannot be easily controlled, and it cannot be easily dismissed. The people listen, and in listening, they begin to imagine something different, not necessarily rebellion, not yet, but possibility. And possibility, especially in a city already charged with memory, is enough to unsettle everything. The religious leaders notice the shift before anyone else fully understands it. They see the crowds growing, the influence expanding, the attention drifting away from the structures they have spent years maintaining. Their concern is not only theological, it is political, because every gathering, every teaching, every moment of public attention carries risk. If Rome interprets this movement as instability, the consequences will not fall on the man speaking, but on those responsible for maintaining order. And so the question begins to change. It is no longer about who Jesus is, it becomes about what he could become. And in that shift, fear begins to take root. There is a pattern forming, though it is not yet fully visible. A man enters the city and is greeted with public acclaim. He is called king by some. He speaks openly about a kingdom. He disrupts activity within the temple, challenging not only practices, but authority itself. And all of this unfolds during the most politically sensitive moment of the year. To the Roman mind, this is not coincidence, it is escalation. And Rome does not wait for rebellion to fully emerge. It moves before the spark becomes a flame. The decision begins to form, quietly, behind closed doors, in conversations that are never recorded but shape the course of history. The conclusion is not reached through a single argument, but through a growing sense of inevitability. Something must be done. The arrest does not happen in the open. It happens at night, away from the crowds, away from the unpredictable energy of the people who have been listening, watching, believing. This detail alone reveals more than any official record. This is not about justice, it is about control. A man who speaks in public is taken in private, because the greatest threat to power is not violence, it is persuasion. When words begin to move people, when influence begins to spread without structure or hierarchy, authority loses its ability to predict outcomes, and unpredictability is something Rome cannot tolerate. The trial that follows is not a clean process. It is fragmented, pressured, urgent. Witnesses contradict one another, accusations shift, the narrative refuses to settle into something stable. But stability is not the objective, resolution is. Quickly, before the city wakes, before questions begin to circulate, before the fragile balance of order is disrupted. And yet even in this urgency there is hesitation, because the case does not fit neatly into the categories Rome understands. There is no army, no organized resistance, no visible threat, just a man whose influence cannot be easily measured, and that creates a problem. When Jesus is brought before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, the situation becomes something else entirely. Pilate is not concerned with theology. His responsibility is singular and absolute: maintain order, prevent rebellion, protect Roman authority. Everything is filtered through that lens. And so he asks the only question that matters in this context: are you the king of the Jews? It is not a spiritual inquiry, it is a political one, because in Rome there is only one king, and any suggestion of another, even symbolic, introduces a level of risk that cannot be ignored. The answer he receives does not resolve the tension, it deepens it. There is no clear denial, no direct claim, only ambiguity. And Rome does not function well in ambiguity. It requires clarity, threat or no threat, guilty or not guilty, act or release. Pilate hesitates, and in that hesitation, pressure begins to build, not spontaneously, but deliberately. Voices rise, accusations sharpen, the situation is reframed. This is no longer about the man standing before him. It becomes about loyalty, about perception, about survival within the structure of power. The statement that shifts everything is precise and calculated. If you release him, you are no friend of Caesar. In the Roman world, that is not a suggestion, it is a warning. Loyalty defines survival. To appear weak, to tolerate even the possibility of a rival, is to invite suspicion. And suspicion in Rome has consequences that extend far beyond a single decision. Now the dilemma is no longer legal, it is strategic. Pilate is choosing between stability and risk, between preserving order and allowing uncertainty to grow. This is the moment where history turns, not with spectacle, but with calculation. Pilate chooses order. The sentence is crucifixion, a punishment reserved not merely for criminals, but for those classified as threats to the state. It is not just execution, it is a message, a declaration. Rome is not only removing a man, it is defining what he represents. Whether he truly poses a threat becomes irrelevant. What matters is what he might inspire. And inspiration, in the wrong moment, can destabilize empires. The execution is public, deliberately so. The charge is displayed for all to see: King of the Jews. It is intended as mockery, as deterrence, as a clear warning to anyone who might entertain similar ideas. This is what happens to those who challenge Rome. This is how quickly influence can be erased. And yet, even in this display of power, something does not align. The man on the cross does not behave like a rebel. There is no resistance, no final call to arms, no attempt to turn death into defiance. Only words. Words of forgiveness, words that do not fit the narrative Rome is trying to enforce. And that is where the tension lingers, because Rome can control actions, it can control bodies, movements, outcomes, but it cannot fully control meaning, and meaning is where influence lives. In the days that follow, something begins to unfold that no calculation could have fully predicted. The story does not end with the execution, it begins to spread. Quietly at first, then with increasing momentum, not through force, but through belief, not through structure, but through conviction. The very thing Rome sought to eliminate begins to move beyond its reach. What was meant to be a conclusion becomes a beginning. What was intended as suppression becomes amplification. And this raises a question that refuses to disappear. Did Rome eliminate a threat, or did it create something far more powerful? Because political decisions are made in moments, but their consequences unfold across generations. Pilate chose stability. He chose order. He chose to protect his position within the empire. And in doing so, he became part of a decision that would outlast the empire itself.